Join Matt and I in today's episode of the Everyday Leader podcast, where we're going to be discussing the importance of culture, alignment, engagement, and performance inside of an organization, and really what causes organizations to function and to dysfunction. And so really how leadership and systems can be the key to solving a lot of that, to really drive results in any organization you could be a part of, whether that's your business, your family, yourself. Excited for you to tune in and listen today.
Welcome to the Everyday Leader podcast. Leadership is a choice. Join me, Matt, and my co-hosts Drew and Tate each episode as we break down how to lead powerfully in your family, team, and organization. Hey everyone, welcome to the Everyday Leader podcast. Drew and I are excited to be together today and to discuss our experience and understanding around organization function and or dysfunction. No matter who you are or where you are a part of an organization, whether it be your family, your a sports team, or an organization or team at work or business. And we're excited to share some of the things we've found that can really help strengthen a team or an organization. We are missing Tate today. Fortunately, Tate actually lost his mom late last week, and so he's spending time with family, and they're celebrating her life. And so our thoughts and prayers definitely go out to Tate and his family right now at this time.
Yep. And if you listen to this, Tate, we love you, buddy, and praying for you and your family. To our listener, thanks for joining us today. Yeah, we usually have a guest, and today you get to hear me and Matt. And I all the time tell Matt, and I think I've heard him say the same thing to me. That's like, man, we need to record more of the conversations we have. Sometimes we have these conversations and we're like, wow, that was really good, and it's too good for us to keep to ourselves. We need to share some of the thoughts and ideas that we had. And Matt and I both love leadership. We both love culture. We both love seeing the growth that can come when the power of those things are combined. And I think that's kind of where the topic we're going to talk about today comes from. So yeah, this is us recording one of those conversations we have often with each other.
Yeah, just Drew, while you're getting the visual pulled up, there's actually another kind of insight here for all of you to take from this, which is a lot of times we might feel stuck in an area, or we have an idea, it's vague, and we don't really know how to clarify it or how to take action on it. And a lot of times just getting on the phone with someone and talking through it, all of a sudden after 30 minutes, you have all this clarity and you've talked it out and got it outlined, or have a better understanding of what's next or what it looks like. And that's happened to us many times. And it actually happened very specifically with this visual. This got created in a 30-minute conversation where we weren't necessarily even intending to create this that day. And as we started talking about how these things interact and relate, this is what came about. So if you're stuck on something or have had a thought, just get on the phone, get on a call, and start talking about it.
And if you're a listener today, you can see this on YouTube. If you want to see the visual, or go to the Everyday Leader website, everydayleader.co/resources, or look for the resources tab in the menus. And you can see what we're going to talk about and discuss today. I'll make sure it's uploaded and on our website. So, but yeah, the idea, I think that, Matt, where this kind of started is like, what are like, if you think of a wheel and things that are spinning, the wheel can spin in a good direction or a not so good direction. And sometimes when something goes wrong in an organization, it starts to affect everything else. And the flip side can happen. Something goes right in an organization, it can also impact everything else inside of an organization. So these are some things we have found, both experienced personally and working with teams and working with organizations outside of where we are, that we've seen really have impacted organizations, or maybe negatively impacted them if there's a problem in one of these areas.
Yeah. Well, so I'm thinking of, you brought up the wheel concept. And so that makes me think of the book Good to Great by Jim Collins. There's so many good things in that book. And he talks about the flywheel. And I really view this as a flywheel. Like, if you want to think about, okay, well, how do I affect the flywheel or the momentum of the wheel of my organization or team? That's what we're going to do our best to explain today. So one other thing real quick is like, I have historically been very much all about like freedom and don't put me in a box, that kind of stuff, right? And as I've gotten older and as I've been exposed to more things like from Jim Collins and many others, I have learned and see more clearly that there really is great wisdom in having a framework and a structure and a clarity around anything that we're engaged in or that we're doing or looking to create. And so the last thing I'll say about that is that in physics, balance means no motion. And so that's not what we're after. We're not after but like a perfect balance. We're after an and the ability to hold both and have both in an organization. And both of those things that I'm talking about are freedom, right? Autonomy, vision, and systems, processes, frameworks that give structure to what it is you're trying to create. So I think that there's been a lot of times in my life when I've very leaned heavily on like the just like the fuzzy, intangible part of all of it. And that's important. It really is. Like I think a lot of times it gets forgotten. So I think that's why sometimes I leaned so heavily into it because it was like this has been forgotten or this is not, this is ignored, and this really matters, and it does. And it's a holding of both. It's the culture, the intangible, the leadership, and the systems, processes, and frameworks that accompany that actually create tons of momentum in the flywheel.
Yeah. Yeah, and as you bring that up, Matt, I think there's like this constant battle in business of you have those that don't want to ever be in a box and they like want this and craves this freedom or this I don't know what the right word is, utopia experience in their organization. And then you got this other side that's like, no, we've got to have a list. We've got to have numbers. We've got to have KPIs. We've got to have, you know, a process and a system for everything, and almost to the detriment of the culture, of the dream, of the vision. And I think what we're suggesting is you can have both of those things, and it can be a beautiful thing if you can bring those things together. So,
Yeah.
so what we outline in this for our listener who may not see the visual on the screen is there's really four interconnected areas we see inside of organizations. There's the culture itself, the alignment of the members of the organization and that culture, the actual engagement of people in the organization, and then the performance of the organization. And so if one of those areas starts to suffer, kind of back to that flywheel example Matt's talking about, you'll see things start to spin in the wrong direction. And the opposite is true. When you increase and make one of those areas better, it tends to impact all of the other areas. And so what our experience has been is if an organization can look at this circle and pick an area that is weak and focus on fixing that, it can actually impact a lot of different areas inside their organization.
Yeah, for sure. So the most logical place to start for anyone, business, organization, team, family, is with culture. Culture is a very diluted word, overused word, hard to understand word. And so just to make it simple, think about culture as a verb real quick, that it's what you cultivate. It's what you tolerate. It's what you celebrate. It's what you talk about. It's what you don't talk about, right? That is your culture. And so without overthinking it, I want to make it really simple for you today. If you're thinking like, okay, I want to understand better our culture. Think about it in terms of who you are and how you are. And if you can answer those two questions, you have moved from unintentionally just letting things happen and being whatever, whenever, to a more clearly defined and by design approach to who you are and how you are. So when you think about who you are, one of the things that I read lately that I love so much was someone was describing purpose. And again, that's another one of those words. It's like, if I ask most people what their purpose is in life, it's difficult to articulate. So think about it this way, right? That purpose is not what you do. Like your purpose or your identity is not what you do. It's what happens to other people when you do what you do. So even through the lens of a family, you can think about that. Like, how do I want people to experience us? Or when we do what we do as a family, when we show up how we want to show up, when we are who we say we are, what does that bring about? What do other people experience? What's the outcome of that? And start to articulate that. And it's a fun activity. So whether you have a big team, small team, it's a family or whatever, start with articulating who you are and how you are. And really what you're doing is you're trying to capture and clarify and understand your culture in an intentional and by design kind of way.
Yeah, and so we might define culture as just the things you share as an organization, your values, your beliefs, your behaviors. And if you want to improve that, the action would be we capture our culture and we clarify our culture. Now, that could be through taking assessments. That's part of the tool you're creating, Matt, with Higher Aligned, is to help organizations do that. And you don't know what your culture is if you don't talk about it, if you don't clarify it, and if you don't check in to see, what others' experience or view of that culture is.
Yeah. Yeah. So having this capturing and clarification of who we are and how we are and of your culture really provides a really strong anchor for everything else. Because now it's like, okay, that's the lens we look through when we're making decisions as far as like who gets to be on the team or maybe who doesn't really belong on the team. Um, for your own leadership, like how are you going to go about being a leader, showing up as a leader, addressing issues, all those things that come up in relationships and communication, right? It becomes an anchor for all of that. And sharing that with the whole organization or team is really beautiful because it gives everyone a common understanding. And I would call it even like a standard. I love that word, especially like in sports, right? It's not like a rigid limiting thing. It's actually like gives you perfect clarity of like how can I excel within this, and so coming up with that standard. So the next piece of this is alignment. And if you're looking at this or listening to this through the lens of your family, obviously you're not like really getting rid of people from your family or adding people to your family per se. And there is still an element of this if you're looking at this from a family standpoint of like, who am I associating with? Who am I really like welcoming into my home or spending time with, or what am I, the kind of people that I'm associating with, like, am I aligned with them? So you can still look at that from a business standpoint. It really is, am I bringing on people onto the team who are aligned with what we just talked about, right? With the culture, with who we are and how we are. Are they good with the standard? Are they committed to the standard? And that's so huge because if you stop and think about times when, and you probably didn't think of it in terms of misalignment, stop and think about the times in your job or in your business when you were the most frustrated or the most burnt out or the most just like empty or drained. It was when there was misalignment, either like you with the organization or the organization with you or both, or you and a team member or you and your, who you reported to. There was misalignment, and that misalignment breeds confusion, burnout, complication, and all that kind of stuff. So alignment is huge. Are we aligned with who we are and how we are?
Yeah, let me share two examples of that. So yesterday I had a conversation with somebody, and he was telling me about the dreams he's chasing, and I was telling him how I love that he was sharing that with me, because a lot of times the world will squash your dreams when you share what they are. And he's like, "Yeah, my in-laws do that." And so we just had this conversation that's like, maybe you're not going to talk about your dreams around your in-laws, and you're not going to kick your in-laws out of your life, and there's obviously not alignment with that area. And so yeah, alignment is about that people in an organization have the same vision, the same purpose, headed the same direction. And I've been in situations where my vision and what I want doesn't align with the mission of the organization. And when you recognize that, it's not fun, it's uncomfortable. And to be the leader on the other side of that, it's like, okay, that means if someone's not in a line, either we have to create a vision that they can be aligned with, or it's going to be best for the organization if they don't stay here long term.
And best
And
for
that,
them.
yeah, it's going to be best for both sides. Like sometimes we think, hey, I can't let go of this key person because they're too important. And sometimes the best thing you can do is find a way to for each side to move on. And that doesn't have to be a bad thing. It doesn't have to be an experience where it's an ugly firing. So, and sometimes someone needs to be have their future freed up, as we like to say. They need to be let go. And I think if you're having conversations, and this is where leadership starts coming into play, if you're having conversations with your team, with your organization about what they want, what's important, and continually sharing the vision of what you want, what's important to you, that's where you're going to be able to tell if that alignment's in place or not.
Yeah,
And
totally.
yeah,
Yeah, so that's really what gets created. Like when you have that alignment, which again is anchored in the culture and who you are and how you are, well, now you can really shift in your approach from more of like a management and control and like all the puzzle pieces and the chess pieces to get everyone to do what you want to leadership, which is like, how do I help people get what they want? How do I help people? Like, how do I continue to create a big enough vision for people to just run free inside of? And that's a really powerful thing. Alignment really does create the opportunity for us to shift from more of like a management and control mentality to how do I show up for people that I care about as a leader.
yeah, and so when that happens, you can really amplify and accelerate the direction of the organization. And as to what Matt's saying, it becomes less about management and more about leading people. When the alignment's there, you're not having to
Get people
manage
to
the
do something.
tasks. Yeah, yeah, totally. And that leads to the next part of this circle, which is engagement. Like, are the people in your organization, your family, are they engaged? Are they engaged in that purpose? Are they engaged in that vision? And you might define engagement as the level of passion, commitment, and involvement that individuals feel towards their work or towards their organization. And it's really fun when you're somewhere that you're aligned or where people are aligned, because you see engagement increase, and people do things because they want to, not because they have to.
That's a massive distinction right there. And it's actually a really all of us, even maybe without knowing, have experienced that, I hope, at some point. And we've also experienced the opposite. It's a beautiful thing. It's a fun state to be in when you and the people around you are showing up somewhere and engaging in something, which means, yeah, they're choosing to be there, to be doing it because they want to, not because they have to. And wow,
Yeah.
talk about like easier said than done, right? Like,
Right.
so just so you know, like none of this is easy, right? None of this
Right.
is like an overnight walk in the park cakewalk, and it's very simple and it's very doable for everyone.
We've both been a part of this on I think in multiple organizations and in multiple ways. And it's hard to have this happen, and it can be a beautiful thing. And there's nothing wrong, I think, either with, like, once again, recognizing at times that, hey, there's not alignment or this isn't working in our culture. Because when you remove people or when people separate that aren't in alignment, like, it allows for things to come together beautifully. And sometimes it seems like there's temporary setbacks in going through a process of correcting and fixing these things. And that's why leadership is such an important part of this. Like, leadership is such an important part of, you know, keeping the vision, holding course, staying true to your values and what's important, and really helping people see, like, hey, this is what we will accomplish together. And that's fun to be a part of when that alignment's there. Uh, and yeah, and people are motivated to show up and go to work when they're aligned. That it just creates natural engagement.
Yeah, and that's exactly right. Like what engagement creates is now we're like actively and proactively moving. I think that's what engage means, right? Like I think of it as like even a gear or a mechanical system. Like when something's engaged, it means it's like it's moving, it's acting, it's functioning, right? And so we can really go from more of an apathetic, go with the flow state to like a more intentional, proactive type of
Productive.
productive mindset.
Yeah, totally. And that takes us into our last piece, which is performance, which is something I think every organization wants to see get better is their performance. And performance is just measuring the outcomes and the results achieved by individuals and by your team. And so, yeah, how do we improve performance, Matt?
Well, I want to back up just a little bit. It's this word and this concept in the modern world is what kind of ruined it for me. It's like, because so many organizations and so many systems that are still utilized today are just laced with a lot of greed and selfishness, and so this like obsessive approach to performance actually really like can sour people because
Mm, yeah, right.
like performing like organizational performance for the sake of performance is draining and is like empty, right?
Right.
So again, if that's becomes the motivation or the purpose, that's going to be very short lived and people are going to get burnt out very fast. And so it's actually a beautiful thing though, because like everyone wants to win and perform. Like everyone wants to create impact and have results and feel like they're contributing and they're winning and they're, making a difference, right? Like that's a very normal thing. And so we want to perform, we want to win. And so that's why where we started matters so much, because when you know who you are and how you are and you understand like why you're doing it, well then the performance has more substance, and it's performance in the sense that it's to create the outcome you're driving, which is not just for the sake of performance alone.
Well, once again, like the lens we would look through is, does the performance or what we're trying to accomplish align with the culture? Are we engaged in that? Are you know are we trying to think how to put this into words? We have a framework we teach, Matt, called your most important number for your most important person. So are the metrics we're tracking, can we link it to the person we're serving, or maybe even to a bigger idea, to the vision of the company? Like, is the performance we're tracking, is it a direct correlation to that culture, to that mission, to serving our client, or serving our coworkers, or serving those we work with?
Yeah.
And yeah, when you start combining that together, it's like, okay, performance can really start to move forward. We can, if we prioritize the right things, we can really propel the performance of our organization.
Yes. And the whole like link there is that engagement, as it increases, performance will go up. Because like again, think about it like a mechanical machine. Like if a machine is disengaged, like the gears aren't engaged and one side's spinning but the other side's not, like that machine's not moving. As soon as they're engaged, well now you're moving, right? Like the performance of that machine is going to go up. And so it's the same in our organizations. That engagement will result in increased performance. And so once performance is increasing and you can recognize that, you now you can really implement like a measurement of that. And I mean, we could go into a ton of stuff about this, right? I think the key is you got to have your priorities, which again are answering to who you are and how you are, right? Without that, how do you even know what your priorities are? And then, like Drew mentioned, right, that a lot of that is like our most important numbers, our most important people, our most important processes. And so, if you want to simplify it, just think about it in terms of those three things, like who are the most important people, right? Which takes you back to your purpose. What are our most important numbers to measure and track? And what are the most important processes that are going to help us ensure that we are creating the thing we say we want to create for the people that we say we care about? And and then be able to measure it and and watch it instead of more of an assumption or a guess or like, well, maybe this decision will result in what we want. The more you're able to measure and understand your performance, the more you can make adjustments to it in a way that is aligned with who you are and how you are.
Yeah, and what happens when you have all of these things, and for those that are looking at the visual, then you have intention over reaction inside of an organization when your culture's where it should be. When the alignment's there, you're leading over managing. When the engagement's there, you have production over apathy. And when you've got the performance piece dialed in, it's, hey, now we're measuring things over just assuming what's happening. We're tracking things in the right way. And all of these come together. It requires leadership. It requires a leader. It requires a vision. It requires creating that culture. And then on the flip side, it does require having some systems and processes in place to make sure things continually run smoothly and that we're tracking things that are an important part of our organization or our business.
Yeah. So think about this as like a compounding effect, right? Like this is a never ending compounding cycle. This is not like a one time thing. As you continue to understand and capture your culture and clarify it, you can continue to add aligned people. And as you continue to add aligned people, your engagement will continue to increase, your performance will continue to increase. And then you're going to want to capture and understand that winning culture continually. So that's how the flywheel effect really starts to take place.
Yeah. So to our listener, if you want this resource, go to the everydayleader.co /resources or go on our website. You'll be able to access this and find this. We also have a group called The Climb. We meet a couple times a month with business owners that are looking to level up in their life and their business. And we get into topics like this and we talk about, hey, how can we implement these and solve these things and what we're doing. So if you want more information, you can find that on our website as well. Matt, any last thoughts before we end today?
No, this has been fun, Drew. Again, this is not easy and it is simple. So don't leave here thinking like this is so much, it's so complicated. Take the nuggets that stand out to you and recognize it is simple. And with simplicity and consistency, it's very possible for you and your team as well.
And just to go off that, Matt, I would say pick one thing, like in your family, pick one thing in your business and say, hey, what is the area where there's the most opportunity? I like using the word opportunity instead of like a problem. Hey, where's the most opportunity in the business to improve? Maybe it's our performance. Maybe we have a great culture, but we just don't track anything and we don't know what's working and what isn't. Or maybe it's like, hey, we have really good systems, but no one likes to show up to work. So maybe we need to talk about what the vision is and why we're really here. I love just a preview to last episode, or I guess not a preview. That's not the right word. Looking back to our last episode with Oak, he talked about this food bank they were part of, and people were wanting to leave at 5, and he's like, or 4 o'clock because it was time to go, and it's like there were still lines of people and people that needed help and needed food, and it's like, are we going to let some poor mom starve? And they really kind of changed the culture of the organization so that people were excited to be there, and it wasn't about just clocking in and clocking out anymore. And so that's an example of just, hey, you can kind of start to create that culture by talking about it and really bringing some leadership to your organization. So this has been fun, Matt.
Yeah, it's been good. All right. Thanks for tuning in. Pick one thing and, understand what you can take action on. And today's the day. Thanks for joining us on the Everyday Leader podcast. If you're ready to take your leadership journey even further, subscribe to our weekly newsletter for more insights and practical tips. And don't forget to connect with us on Instagram to stay a part of our growing community. Just follow the links in the show notes. If this episode impacted you, please help us spread the word and share the link with a friend from wherever you're listening.